I mean, Jonathan Van Ness exudes good energy all of the time. And you know him from Queer Eye on Netflix and Getting Curious, which we're going to talk about. But I mean, you have to have a bad day every once in a while, but I don't feel like you show it much.
No, I definitely do. One of my favorite stories about myself, I'll say it really quick because I going off script, but this one time when I was teaching yoga, I was really late to class, and then I like sped around this car that was going really late on the right. Like I passed her on like the shoulder, and then she ended up pulling into yoga right behind me, and she was in my class. Like as I was like speeding, it was so embarrassing. So I do in fact have moments. I'm not always, it just depends. Like if one of my cats like pukes on like one of my cute rugs, I'm like,
That's a frustrating moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. So was that yoga moment in Los Angeles?
No, it was thankfully in Scottsdale, Arizona when I was
Got
like
it.
23. So it was before, yeah.
Got it.
All
Because
the
I would say
things.
that's a very small world thing to happen in such a big city like LA.
hmm
All right. So before the pandemic, you were shooting Queer Eye in Austin, and what's happening now?
So we did a week, then everything shut down. So that was in March of 2020. Then in like October of 2020, Netflix was like, "Do you remember that show that you pitched like a year ago, Getting Curious?" And I was like, "Yes." And they were like, "We want you to do that right quick." So I shot Getting Curious the end of 2020, finished at the beginning of 2021. Then we went back into production on Queer Eye in like April of
Okay.
2021. So we wrapped season 6 of Queer Eye. And yeah, then it just came out. So it came out on New Year's. And then my first like solo EP show came out on January 28th. And so it's been quite the opening of 2022 for little old me.
It sounds
Yeah.
exciting, but getting
Yeah.
curious is such a simple but great concept, I think, because it's genuine curiosity for things that you have that you can take a deep dive into. What have been, like, I'm curious about, I'm all into this supply chain, understanding the shipping yards and supply chain, but I'm also curious about the roadways on airport tarmacs. I never understand how certain, like, the cars do that. It seems like you need a special license to drive where the big planes
Right.
are.
Do you need to be a producer on my podcast? You're full of good ideas, Ryan. That's like,
Just curious, but on your like bugs, for example, right? Like that's something you're curious about. Anything else that we don't know about yet that may be coming?
oh my God, I'm so curious about so much stuff. I actually, well, I don't want to like repeat it, but I did have like this intrusive daydream 3 days ago where I got to like train with like an Olympic ping pong player for like, if we get a season 2, I was like, I just want to train like an Olympic ping pong. Like, can I do it? Can I have a Forrest Gump moment? I'm a little obsessed with ping pong. I also think it would be really fun to, I mean, what if I was like a gorgeous let's take your idea. Am I like in the airport? Am I working like what's it like to like be the people that like tow the plane out?
Yeah,
I don't
know.
know.
I always
don't
wonder,
know.
like, hooking that rig up seems like a big deal, right? And then,
Yeah.
at LAX, you'll land and they turn off the plane, then they pull you into the little corner. And I like, that's a big job.
Well, not that,
I
and all the
also-
suitcases and the luggage they have to organize.
I would
How
be
do they
really
do
bad
that?
at it.
Yeah.
I feel like I would wreck the plane accidentally. Like
I
I
feel
wouldn't
like you'd
even
be curious. You would be opening up the suitcases, looking what's inside.
or it would be like my curiosity would like peak like upon arrival and then I'd be like, okay, bye. I'm nervous. I'm
But with
nervous.
bugs were a fear of yours.
They
Right?
were. And then I moved to Texas and I started seeing all these interesting insects. And that was where the episode of Getting Curious About Insects kind of came from because I covered cicadas on my podcast.
Oh,
And then after that, I met our expert, Dr. Jessica Ware, on that podcast. And I had her on the show. And she gave me her cell phone number. And I FaceTime her probably like once a week every time I see an interesting bug or spider that I don't know. I think she regrets it. But like, giving me her number. But yeah, I'm so interested in bugs and insects now. The other thing I really want to learn about that, because obviously we couldn't leave like Manhattan and like the Northeast corridor, and it was like the dead of winter when we shot. But I'm curious about trees. I want to know about like, and because you think trees are like not like popping off exciting, but it turns out, do you know what I think I learned? I think I learned that trees is whatever you see above the ground, the roots go that far below the ground. So I want to know
True.
about like the life of trees and like
That
tree
long?
sex. Yeah, and like, what about tree sex? Like, what
Wh-
about the pine cones, the needles?
What is tree sex? I'm curious to know that.
Yeah,
And
well, they
does
gotta
this-
have sex to reproduce.
So
There's
does the trunk matter in that?
No, I think who knows? Okay, season 2. We need you to stream it now. Season 1. Stream season 1 now. If enough of you do it and share about it, put it on your
Yes.
Facebook, honey. Let's get the Facebook
Well,
users. Put it on your TikTok. Let's get them.
Listen, olive
got you.
trees live thousands of years, right? They've
Mhm.
seen civilization settlements. They've seen wars, and yet those trunks get so thick they outlive everything. I think that's a great episode.
It is.
That's a very good episode.
And oak
One
trees.
thing-
Oak trees are protected
Okay.
in California.
I did learn this really, it was like the termites, like the termite queen, like the African termite queen that I like held and like touched. It was like dead, but it was like this big on Getting Curious. That was insane.
Have you seen the iguanas that fall from the trees?
No,
Oh,
but
in
I did hear
Florida?
about that. Is that,
So
yeah.
in Florida, they're up in the trees. If it gets too cold, they go brittle, but they don't die. They just go brittle to save themselves and they end up falling, like raining from the trees. And they lay on the ground. They look like they're frozen dead, but they're not. They're being protected. And they say don't touch them because they're going to come back to life.
But if
Interesting.
they fall off a tree, isn't that not great? Like if you fall on your back from a tree
Well, because
and you're like a little lizard.
they go hard, right? So that they protect themselves in a weird way. But like the good news, Jonathan, is there's endless stuff for you to pursue with this idea that you are
It's true.
producing as well.
It's true. I
Um,
am.
So, Getting Curious, it's all on Netflix, basically, right?
It's
We can you're all over
streaming
Netflix.
on Netflix. Yeah, all 6 episodes, season 1 streaming on Netflix. If you're into the TV version, we have like we're about to do our 250th episode of the podcast. It's going to be out next week. So if you want to go a deeper dive, because on the TV show we have like there's multiple experts, there's multiple locations,
Right.
so it's a little bit quicker paced. It's more like TV world, and then in the podcast, it's usually like 99% of the time one expert on one subject, and we go a little bit deeper. So it's the TV show's really very quick paced and pretty fun.
Well, make sure you continue to have a good time because your good times are contagious for us, and it's great to see you.
Thank you. You too. I gotta say one more thing before we leave.
Yes.
I literally was getting ready for work this one day last week, and I was like, wow, my career, like I can't believe this is so cool. I was like doing press in New York, and I had this all of a sudden like memory. It was like 4:45 in the morning because it was like really early for call time. Do you remember? I've literally massaged your feet on national television, Ryan. I
do.
literally rubbed your feet
Ah.
on freaking. I was like getting ready for work, and I was like, I gave Ryan Seacrest like a salt scrub on national television. So I just want to say I do remember it.
My feet have never been the
Why?
same.
Because we were on
We're
gorgeous
on
Tell
yeah.
Ryan.
We were on live with Kelly and Ryan, and I don't know how we got
No,
to
I
that
get
place.
that part, but like, why the feet
Well,
rub?
but how did we get to
It
that
was a
place?
Queer Eye segment. We were like doing
Oh,
like
that's
at home
what
DIY stuff. And I was like, oh, let's do like little make your own scrubs. And then somehow I got roped into doing it on your feet. I was like, can't we? What about a hand, honey?
I
Like,
have nice feet, Jonathan.
Yeah,
Van
he
Ness.
does have
He
nice
does.
feet.
It's a moment I will, and my feet will never forget. Hey, much love, Big Hugs. Good to see you. We'll see you on Netflix. Bye, Jonathan.